Hey, my beautiful bitches, it's me, Fiona St. James, and welcome to another episode of Fiona's Coffee Talks. And as always, I'd like to start off every morning with a fresh, black, hot cup of coffee. Hold the cream! I'd love to, in my new favorite coffee mug, that of course is the logo to my channel. Hold the cream! See, even got the t-shirt and the cup. Who knew? Hold on. So I used to have my other favorite coffee mug, which had the quote of the century by Oscar Wilde, which said, "Life is too important to be taken seriously." So even though I don't drink from that mug, because I like this one now, I think of that every morning. So today's topic of conversation is actually a continuation of a video, which you probably I'm hoping you saw about a week or so ago, which I called Food Discrepancies in New York City. So this is part 2 to that video. And I wanted to do this second part because in the first one, I mentioned with COVID-19 going on and, food being scarce or money being scarce, there's all of these, there's particular programs that are out there to help people, like what they call the grab and go, which essentially in all the boroughs, there are different schools, and it's the school lunch program that they would have been giving to the kids had they still been in school, but now it's open to everyone. So you could go there every day. They don't even ask for Aide, and you get breakfast and lunch. And then they also have where you could get food delivered. So when I did the first video, I called it Food Discrepancies because a dear friend of mine who lives in Manhattan in the Carnegie Hall area, and me living in Sunnyside, in Queens, a good part of Queens, but, Queens nonetheless, I noticed that we would compare what she was getting and what I was getting. It was definitely a big difference, and where she would get what I refer to as real food, and I was getting all of these foods that were very heavily based on carbs and sugars, crackers and cookies. And even though it may have been whole wheat crackers, she was getting actual meals. And what I would get would be, little snacky things that I guess combining them would constitute a meal. But, I was pointing out the fact that, if you live in a more affluent neighborhood, you are treated better. And it's sort of there's two sides to that. It's the fact that I get that if you live in an area where it's not as affluent, maybe the food banks around here or the food that's being donated by the neighboring restaurants aren't going to be the same as they would be if you were in a better neighborhood. There's always been that whole discussion also of where, the poorer neighborhood, they get the crappy food, all these fast foody things, McDonald's and, lower end supermarkets, whereas the better neighborhoods, they have the fancier things. Well, there is something to be said about if you try putting something too fancy in a neighborhood where the residents don't have that kind of money to spend, well then how is an establishment going to survive if the people in the neighborhood can't afford their prices? So there's something to be said about that. But my whole thought was, if this is New York City providing food to all the different boroughs, it should be, I think, as uniform as possible. And it hadn't been. And the reason why I say hadn't, and the reason why I wanted to do this part 2, is because I am happy to announce that since I did that first video, things have changed for the better. I thought I'm going to try this one more time, the food delivery, and see if it gets any better. And lo and behold, it did. So now when you go on the website, you check off whether you want standard or kosher. So I checked off kosher, and it was actually these really amazing, wonderful food that each meal came in its own plastic container that you would get at a salad bar place. And so you got the breakfast would be a big kosher bagel and a juice and an applesauce, cream cheese. And then the lunch or dinner would be a fish thing, which would be a nice can of sardines with challah bread and a dessert, and an actual, like, food that was substantial and real, what I refer to as real food versus like snacky food. So I was like, oh my God. So like when that happened, then I was like, I have to do another video, because now I'm happy to say that exactly what I received was the same exact thing that my friend received. So now it seems like, they have maybe enough people complain. I mean, I didn't complain to 311 or anything like that, because what I did say in the first video was that although there was that discrepancy, and I kind of felt like it was a way of keeping like the poor man down, and I didn't necessarily agree with it, I was appreciative that, food is food regardless. And in times like this where, one isn't working or your cash flow isn't coming in the way you're used to it coming in, well, then every little bit helps. But I'm just really happy to know that, like, everything seems to be on a level playing field now. So now they've even taken it to another level where before you would just say if you had any dietary restrictions, now you check off kosher or standard. Now they've even added a third one where it says you could check off kosher, halal, or standard. And now they even have it where you could, like, because you could get it like every 3 days. So now you could even like plan like the next month in advance. And then it's like, they'll plan for your next 10 deliveries. Who knew? So, I mean, I'm probably not going to do it anymore. Although I'm curious, because when I did the kosher one, what I got was great. So I might do it one more time and check off halal and see like what I get with that. Just, social experiment, see what that is. So, and there's a website that you go on for that, and I know it's part of like the nyc.gov. I know if you just Google like, food, New York City food delivery, you can get to it and you create an account, and then you're allowed to like, place an order, I think every like 3 days. And, so I said this in my other video, don't feel like ashamed if you need the help, and if if times are tough and if your money is tight, this is a nice way of, being able to eat. And it's there for, for all of us to benefit from it. So even though if it's something that you're not used to doing, because I know I'm not, it's something that's going to help. And I'm not ashamed to ask for help if I need it. And neither should you. That's what it's there for. So anywho, that's the point of this video. Was I just wanted to say good work, New York City. You guys, like, finally everyone's, apparently for the time being anyway, when it comes to this food delivery, we are all being treated equal. And so there's not necessarily that discrepancy, because it really was like the difference of night and day before. And I was like, what's this bootleg food that I'm getting? This ain't food. And now I'm like, oh, yay, like real food. Who knew? All right, guys. So that's the scoop. Hope you're staying safe and healthy. I am doing my best to not go stir crazy. It's been going on 8 weeks. It's, like I said, I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but it's Sunday, May 3rd. It's about 5:30 in the afternoon. And I pretty much have been home. This past Wednesday was 7 weeks. So this Wednesday coming up will be my 8-week mark of that would have been when I stopped like jumping on the train and going into the city every day. So, I mean, I have been keeping myself busy here and, going for my little walks when the weather permits and, just trying to be good about things. But, it's tough. I have my moments and I go stir crazy. I have my moments also, like, if I think about it too much and, when I finally give myself a minute to breathe, well, I'm like, wow, this is a little upsetting. Like, excuse me, I almost kind of have moments where, I have these fleeting moments of this is depressing, and then I like try to kick myself out of that, because really the reality is that it's what it is. And, it's upsetting. I'm not the only one. I'm sure we all are. Our life has been interrupted for now, but I have comfort in knowing that this is not going to be permanent. Eventually, however long it takes, things will get back to normal, or maybe it's going to be a new normal. Maybe it'll never go back to exactly the way it was. But even if it doesn't, in a way, I'm hoping that the new normal is, what it was before, but now people being more self-aware and, more reflective. And maybe this is this should be an amazing opportunity for everyone to grow within themselves and become better people. So if nothing more, let's at least use this opportunity to do that. All right, guys. Love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I'm glad that you're here with me. Don't forget, thumbs up, set your notifications if you haven't, subscribe if you haven't. And more importantly, stay safe and healthy. And I look forward to seeing you guys and speaking to you again soon. Alrighty, signing off. Love you. Bye.